for the most part. And I like being in my own space. And so that was really difficult for me. So this year when we decided to do this, I'm like, heck yeah. Like I could say, sorry, got to go to bed at 8:30. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. Can't come.
Yeah, it did shift to earlier hours in terms of self-care, but with work productivity, like Meagan said, there were days where I found myself having to work later because I didn't get to finish my to-do list. And I am more creative at night. So sometimes I would cut myself early and allow myself to take a longer break so that I could pick up again in the evening when I knew I would have higher productivity levels when it came to creating content or any of like the more creative stuff that we do.
Hey, great to see you. I am pumped to dig into this episode, and I think you're going to like it, especially if you've ever felt the pressure to wake up nice and early. You know, you've maybe heard the saying, early bird gets the worm. I've tried it. And two people that I have the pleasure of working with on a regular basis shared with me about a month ago that they were also trying like a 5, 6 a.m. and earlier than usual routine to see, does waking up earlier have positive impact for us? So I was so curious about their experiment. I asked them to come on and share. So this is a conversation about what they learned in their experiment, some of the science around being a night owl and the rhythms of our day, and how it worked out for them and where they ultimately ended up with this experiment of waking up earlier and starting their days earlier. Can they get more done? Will they have more productivity? Will they experience more joy? We're going to find out in this episode. The two guests are Sam, who is responsible for social media across McCue, Stay Golden, and 3 Boudoir. She's an incredible marketer and, as you're going to find out, an incredible human. In addition, we've got Meagan with 3 Boudoir, and she's also supporting strategy on McCue and Stay Golden. Meagan and I have been working together and known each other for years. Brilliant mind, so creative, and has some fun things that she did in her experiment as well. What we are talking about is about how you reach your goals, how you live your days with more joy, and how you get where you want to be going, and really how you tune in to what's going on for you and what you need. This is what we are all about at Stay Golden. StayGolden.com is the place to go if you want to check that out. But without further ado, let's get this conversation started. Sam and Meagan, I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thanks for coming on.
You betcha.
This is going to be fun. So a little background. We were talking, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and you two shared that you were experimenting with early morning wake ups.
Oh, yeah.
Why did you do this? Tell us more.
Yeah, we were just doing a social day at my house. We live like 5 minutes from each other. And so we were just doing a social day, and we both were like, in this group, we wanted to be more productive. We wanted to be up when the rest of the world was asleep, you know? And so then we started thinking about this idea, as Sam brought it up, this idea of testing and then, you know, showing it on social. What would it be like if we followed the lifestyle of a billionaire, of a millionaire, you know, these entrepreneurs who are mega, super crazy successful? Does that make you more productive? Does that make you more successful? Does it make you feel better waking up earlier by following these routines that they have? And so she followed just like a kind of a routine where she was waking up at, what did we say, Sam? 6:30, 6 o'clock?
Yeah. So I started waking up at 6 a.m. every day. It was my wake up. And I was used to waking up at like 8 every day. So it was a 2-hour difference. And we pretty much started cold. We didn't go into it in 15-minute increments. We started right at 6 a.m.
Yeah. Mine was at 5 a.m. And I was already waking up around 6:30. So I was trying to just like, give me one more hour. Nobody's awake right now. I know I won't be tempted to work at 5 a.m. So we tried that. And I think the general consensus for both of us was by 1 o'clock, 2 p.m., I was so tired. I already lived a full
So
day.
tired.
It was like I had 7 hours under my belt of like trying to be as productive as possible. So then like I'm in the middle of my work day, I've still got some hours to go and I'm like, I'm dying right now. It was interesting for sure.
Experience.
Yeah, there were a lot of different, there were things that I loved and things that I felt could have been better for sure. And sometimes I'm like, I just don't even know if this really made that big of a difference, because at the end of the day, I was just so tired from having such a busy morning that I felt it didn't really make a ton of difference. It was just, I was shifting my productivity from one part of the day to another pretty much.
Yeah. So good. Okay. I've got some follow-up questions on that. Sam, you woke up at that 6 a.m. hour, 2 hours earlier than usual. How did that flow for you?
Okay. So in the beginning, I felt like I was really in on it. Like I was like, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to get all this stuff done. And when we actually started this, so like Meagan said, I had kind of brought it up as an idea. We worked together on the Stay Golden social media account. And so it was something that we kind of were like, okay, let's explore this productivity, see if it helps so that we can kind of post about it on social and see if we can help people out if we feel like this is more productive. And so we actually sat down that same day and we wrote out an entire routine that we want to follow, like our most ideal routine. If we could have the best morning routine that we consider like productive and healthy, what would that look like for us? And so it started for me pretty strong. I got up at 6 a.m. My alarm went off. I think I set a 5:45 and a 6 a.m. And I got myself out of bed by the 6 a.m. And I immediately got out of bed and I started my skincare routine, which typically for me, that was something that I would get up at 8 a.m. I would scroll on Instagram or check. So I'm a social media manager. So I would check all of the social media accounts that, I help run. And I would kind of just get straight to work right away, which I don't think was always the healthiest for me. But that was just what I was used to. So it was different to get into skincare right away and not touch my phone.
Not touch your phone, but then you went from skincare straight to work.
I actually, this time around, I attempted a 10-minute meditation before I got into anything work related. So it was like, really, we wrote down our ideal morning routines and tried our best to stick to them. So I was using like the Calm app to try to meditate for 10 minutes in the mornings, just like one of their daily meditations. And then I would, eat some yogurt or granola or whatever in the morning for breakfast, which I, again, was skipping breakfast because I would just jump right into work. That was different too.
That was before. Okay.
Yeah, before.
So what are these morning steps that you introduced? You introduced meditation, skincare, meditation.
Skincare right away, meditation, breakfast. And then I would also start work away from my bed. So that was like a big thing for me, was like, I was always working from bed in the mornings because I would start right when I opened my eyes. But instead of going and checking the insights on every account right at 8 a.m., I started, skincare, breakfast, and then I would go sit at my dining table and start my work.
Oh my gosh. So Meagan, did you follow that same morning routine or did you do something different?
Mine was a little bit different. And, I found that being up at that hour really was super peaceful, because it's like the same thing, when you jump into work immediately after you wake up, it's just like, okay, and here we go. You don't really have any like me time, so to speak. So it was really nice to have time to focus on me in the morning. And that's something that I was waking up and I would scroll, for 45 minutes, just like anything, basically. It wasn't productive. It was just mindless scrolling. And so I kind of eliminated that. I would wake up, I would do the 5-minute journal. Or read a self-help book for about right at 5 a.m. while I'm still in bed. And that would kind of help me wake up. Then I would get up, I would do skincare routine, vitamins, dry brush. I was trying to do my New Face. Have you guys heard of New Face? You know what it is, right, Amber? That little, I was trying to do that every day. And that fell off quickly. I would chug a water first thing in the morning. I think I read this was in Gwyneth Paltrow's morning routine or something like that. I would work out. So I'd get on the Peloton, I would work out, and then I would do a 10-minute meditation. And then I would eat breakfast, drink a celery juice, and then I would walk my dog. And while I was walking my dog, I would listen to a podcast, and then I would start work. And that all happened before 7:30. So then I would start my day at 7:30, which is probably, I would say, an hour earlier than I normally start my day. Sometimes I start at 8:30. Sometimes I start at 9 on a normal day. And then that would mean that if I was starting around 7:00, 7:30, I would try to cut myself off around 3:30. And that felt so weird to me. That was the biggest change, I think, because a lot of days I would still end up working until 4 or 5 p.m. because I'm just used to that. So I'm working a lot of a longer day. I'm feeling that burnout a little bit earlier. And sure, like if I was stepping at 3:30, if I'm feeling that burnout around 1 p.m., that's pretty on par with where I would be at, 3:30 before a 5 p.m. cutoff. But I was not totally great at setting that boundary for myself. And then I was like, okay, I need to get I'm done at 3:30. I'm going to stop working and then I'll go do something productive. Like I'll go do a DIY or whatever. And I was just so tired. I did it like a couple days where I was going and doing a DIY project, but then I'm just like exhausted. And then I'm like sitting there like, I can't cook dinner yet. It's only 3:30. So what am I supposed to do right now? So that was different. I think it was also the dead of winter. So we're in Chicago, snowy, not fun at that time. If it was summer and I could get outside and walk my dog or, whatever, be outside in nature, I think it would have made me feel better about being done at 3:30. Okay, I can go and be active right now and still get daylight and enjoy the day still. But without that, when it's winter, I don't want to be out there anyways. So what am I doing now for the next however many hours?
That's so interesting because Sam, I think you had a similar experience around the daylight, right?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, now that it's, April and we're getting closer to summer, I definitely feel like with the sun being out earlier and just like having that sunlight come into your room so much earlier, it's so helpful to get yourself out of bed and actually start your day. Like yesterday, for example, I started bright and early with a Pilates class, and that was easy for me. I didn't feel the same burnout as quickly. It's just something now that like you kind of get used to living in Chicago. It's like, okay, these are the months that you take advantage. And then when it's dark and dreary and you really want to stay in your bed and it's warm in your bed and it's so cold outside, like it makes it so much harder to get yourself up and get the day going, especially with things for me, my experience with like meditation first thing in the morning. Yes, it's nice to have a mindful practice, but I would find myself like yawning my way through the meditation the entire time. I'm like, I'm tired. Like this is kind of almost putting me to sleep. And I found that I prefer to have mindful minutes in the evening compared to the morning. It's just more productive for me. Like I actually feel like I'm getting something out of it in the evenings versus the morning. I just know myself now. And I know that also for me, I'm way more creative at night. So I feel like I can get my work done more efficiently in the evening than I could in the morning. So sometimes an earlier wake up for me almost made me lack productivity in the sense that I wasn't as efficient with getting my stuff done. It took me a little bit longer to, get content finished or come up with some creatives or anything like that. So I think it's really dependent on the person. And I think that there's this whole trend about like, oh, it's like hot girl summer, get your ass up. Like, let's do something. Let's go work out straight in the morning or whatever it might be. And it's like, yeah, that works for some people. And I do like working out in the morning. I feel that wakes me up, but meditation, something calming in the morning, it doesn't wake me up. It makes me more tired. And you learn that about yourself as you test different routines.
It's so interesting. I mentioned to you both that I had a book that I read ages ago on this and I pulled it back up. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to dig in and see because I have tried those early mornings too. And I will tell you, the only place that worked for me was when I was living in California and it was gorgeous. The sun's up. It's beautiful out. Yeah, I can get up at 5 a.m. No problem. Like, let me add it. In addition, it was East Coast hours. So people were already up and working. So I'm like, okay. And then we ended our day early together, which is beautiful. But when I was living in Chicago, I could not wake up that early no way, no chance. And then even here, now that we're back in Africa, specifically in Cote d'Ivoire, it is so beautiful and so warm. But because of where we are, the sun sets fairly early, like 6:15. I think it set last night, maybe even 6. It was like inched up just a smidge. It stays right in that range though. And it rises about the same time every 6 a.m., maybe 6:30. It's a little brighter. And that's about, I follow the sun. And Andrew Huberman on his podcast and in this book, When, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing by Dan Pink, they both talk about like getting light will wake you up, right? So light will give you energy, getting that light in. There's even in one of Andrew Huberman's podcast episodes, he even talks about looking up, like bringing your eyes line up also has impact. So I think the science supports it, and we're obviously seeing it, even though there's that beautiful miracle morning and the 5 a.m. wake ups. It is not what we have found, I think consistently, is it's not necessarily for everyone. And it's also not for all seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think in the summer, it does make more sense for me. I would love to be able to end my day a little bit earlier. And, that's, if I'm ending 3:30 here, that's 4:30 EST. That's still a good time to have like a good cutoff point. And I still get to really enjoy my day. But yeah, in the winter months, it's not it for me. I was just struggling to get up. It's so dark out there. And I programmed I got these light bulbs from Amazon that you can change the colors of them. They're like, I did like an orangey glow on it, and I would program it to turn on at 5 a.m. every morning. So my light would just come on to this nice little sunrisey look. And I was hoping that would help me. And it did, because once I would, I'd open my eyes, my alarm would go off. I'd have to go shut it off, and then the lights are on, and I'm like, okay, I need to stay awake now. But still, I'm just like, I want to get back in my bed. It's so cozy there.
You know what? I'd be curious to see too how those like sun lamps help you in the winter. I actually own one, and I didn't try it out, and I would be curious to see if that would have changed things for me, because I know there's a lot of people, especially in climates like Chicago's climate, that deal with seasonal affective disorder. And like, that is the reason that I personally have that sun lamp, because it is so much harder for me to be productive, keep myself awake, keep my energy levels high, keep myself working in the winter months when it's so dark outside so early and the sun doesn't rise till later. And so for me, I'm curious to see if that would have affected things differently. I'm going to try that out.
I was noticing too that when we were trying this out, and I mean, it was getting dark at 4 p.m., it was already almost pitch black outside here. And I was noticing that I normally go to bed early. I'm like 100 years old. I go to bed at 9:30. I'm ready to hit the hay. I'll read my book for maybe 30 minutes and then try to wind down, try to fall asleep by like 10 o'clock, 10:30 maybe. And I was noticing that 8 o'clock, the first week that I was doing this, I could not keep my eyes open. I was so exhausted at the end of the day. I was like, I have to go to bed right now. Joe was like, you can't go to bed. It's 8 o'clock. I'm like, I can. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. So what else am I supposed to do? So that was the only thing that was troublesome for me too, is that I was cutting my day so short as well. I wasn't able to have that like just wind down, chill time at the end of the night where I'm just watching TV or hanging out with Joe. So that was hard. But I think in the summer when we can get outside and be active, that will be nice.
Mm-hmm. Are you a night owl, Samantha?
I am. Yeah. I find myself, you know what? I can pretty easily morph to the people around me. And that's just something about my personality. I feel like I'm good at adapting with the people around me. And it was actually interesting. I was entering a more serious relationship during this process. And my boyfriend is someone that stays up really late, and he can consistently wake up at the same time, no matter how late he stays up. And that is just not my experience. So that was something that was interesting for me to navigate. I feel like he's really spontaneous with making plans, and I'm always getting invited to hang out with his friends. And it's like 9 p.m. when they start their hangout. And I'm like, I want to be in bed. Like, this is crazy, but I also want to be social. So I feel like that was interesting for me to try to navigate, like, okay, how do I balance my health and productivity with trying to enter a more serious relationship and balance my social life and keep up with people that I want to have close connections with that are these people that stay up so late. So I'm someone who, I'm probably more of a night owl than a morning person, but it's so much harder for me to wake up or go to sleep if I don't have that consistency in my routine.
Consistency.
Yeah. So that's really what matters most is the consistency for me.
Joe wakes up so early. He wakes up at 5 a.m. every day, just like that. Not even a problem. He's up, he's stretching. He's got like a solid routine in place. That was kind of bothersome for me, like having him like wandering around in my space while I'm trying to meditate or like do things in the morning. We were kind of getting in each other's way, which normally we miss each other. So that was definitely different, not kind of having that, but his routine, I feel like helped me wake up a little bit earlier because he's already up and at him. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this.
That's so good. It's true. Getting the space for yourself, whenever that is, I think is part of the important part. I see a lot of, in the moms that I see are trying like, let me wake up early so I can get that quiet time for myself before the kids wake up. So that kind of aligns. Joe's waking up early. Matt wakes up early here too. I'm like, how do you do it, dude? Just please. I don't want to hear you. I just want to stay in my slumber. I like to wake up slowly. Even when I wake up early, I like to just lay there and ease up. There was a season in life. It was actually like high school, college, where I hit the alarm right away and I jump up. Why?
I can't relate to that.
Racing towards every day, all the time. I don't want to live life as this race. And on the night owl thing, listen to this. Sam, this might make you feel good. Night owls tend to display greater creativity, show superior working memory, post higher scores on tests like the GMAT, and even have a better sense of humor.
Wow.
Ooh, I don't know if I believe that last bit. I know some pretty funny people who wake up early.
I'm like, hey, are you calling me not funny?
Not you.
Oh my God. The memory thing, I could work on the memory building.
I was going to say, I don't know if I believe that for myself. I'm like, I am a night owl, but sometimes my memory is pretty shot. It depends though. See, it's that consistency. I'm noticing I'm not getting enough sleep. And also Megan and I were chatting about this when we felt like we were kind of failing. Like it did eventually get to the point where we were like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I started waking up at 7 instead of 6. I was like, this is just not good for me anymore. I think it was like 2.5 weeks in, Megan and I were chatting and we're like, this like isn't really working for me. And we were talking about how women require more sleep than men. And that's something that I was struggling with my boyfriend was like, he's like, okay, like, let's get up, let's get our day started. And he had gone to sleep at midnight. And because he went to sleep at midnight, I also went to sleep at midnight. And suddenly I'm exhausted and he's ready to be in his day. And I'm like, what? This doesn't make sense. But it's because in that instance, that was a display of how women require more sleep than men typically.
I need a solid 9 hours. Like, I know that sounds absurd, but I just do. And I'm okay with going to bed early in order to make that happen. Like, I personally don't like waking up at 9 o'clock. It makes me feel like I'm missing out on a bunch of hours of my day. 7 is probably like the latest that I feel comfortable. And otherwise, I'm down to go to bed early and get a full, fat, nice sleep in because otherwise I'm going to regret it during the day.
I'm so curious how you wind down your days on the flip side.
Megan, you start with that.
That's something I'm so bad at. And it took like a lot of mindfulness during this little project we were testing out. I am definitely a scroller because I'm sitting here on my laptop all day. I'm so bad at just being stationary and not getting up and moving my body. That's why I have to work out in the morning. At the end of the day, my mind is just drained. My body's tired. I don't want to move my body. So I have to work out in the morning. Otherwise, I know I will make an excuse at the end of the day. And so at the end of the day, I really like to just cook dinner and then I like to scroll, which I know that I shouldn't. And so I tried to eliminate that during this kind of 2.5 week, 3 week period that we were testing this out. And I would give myself like strict timelines, like you can have an hour of scrolling or like a day, unless it was for work while I was, if we were posting things or whatever, I would allow myself that. But otherwise, I was not doing my own scrolling on my own personal social media. And I would just make sure that I was reading every night before bed. I take Equilibria CBD. So that kind of helps me wind down and helps me stay asleep as well. And then, just reading and trying not to stare at my screen after I've been staring at my screen all day was something that definitely helps me fall asleep and stay asleep.
That's interesting. I don't think I fall asleep faster when I do not read the news. My problem is not social media. I'm like on a news catch up. And I do that more when I'm living abroad because I'm like, I want to be connected. Am I missing stuff? I can't watch the news. I mean, I can watch the news here, but I can't understand anything they're saying. Need to work on my French. But I would wind down catching up on the news. So I blocked my news sites during the week. So no news for me during the week, unless I choose to override. And when somebody else sent me an article, sometimes I'll override. But I maintained it for a solid 3 weeks with no overrides. And then I would allow myself to watch the news on the weekend. And I put all these timers into my phone with the built-in Apple settings. And then I also limited my social media to an hour a day. And that part was easier for me. And honestly, I could probably cut that down to 30 minutes, like catch up, do the work, catch up with, people I want to catch up with, see the things I want to see. And there's Parkinson's law. The work will expand to fill the amount of time that you give it. And I was really surprised. I'm like, oh, you don't even need an hour on social. Like, hello, check in. Okay, good to go. When I was focused and intentional. But
the news gives me the spookies. I can't do that.
Understandable.
It's not easily. It makes
this is good. Yeah. It does not give me a lot of anxiety or concern. So, I mean, obviously I have concern when I read some of the news, but it doesn't seem to translate into anxiety or fear. And if it did, I would definitely have to dial that in. There are other things that give me anxiety and fear. But what I found is that after I was doing this for even a week, the first week was a little bit weird because I was getting in my routines. But after a week, I'm like, I'm like just thinking at night, letting my thoughts wander. So that's where I say it didn't necessarily make me fall asleep faster, but I was thinking differently. I could feel things rewiring in my brain.
I remember you posting something about this while you were doing like a night swim, and you said that you wanted to like have your head in the clouds a little bit more and just kind of thinking, just like mindless thinking, just putzing around, not so, go. And I agree. I could use more of that too. Just kind of being alone with my own thoughts is not something that I'm well practiced in. I'm very, in the summer when people are like, let's go lay out, let's go tanning. I sit there for 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, now what do we do? I'm not good at just sitting and being stationary. I like to be on the move and be doing something and working towards something. So that's something that I could definitely be practicing too.
I think it's interesting though. I think it's dependent on like the stage of life that you're into. Cause I feel like when I was in a long period of like singleness and I wasn't really actively dating and I didn't have as many friends that stayed in Chicago during college. A lot of them went away. And I had a couple of friends in college that I was really close with, but I also was a commuter and they lived in the city and I lived in the suburbs. And I feel like there was a lot of time for me to be alone in my own thoughts. And I took those years to learn more about myself and what I liked and what I wanted. And then when I did start dating, I found myself jumping for adventure a little bit more. Like I didn't really want to sit with my thoughts anymore. I felt like I had that time. And I think that was also difficult for me when it came to trying to have a stricter morning routine. Like I said, when everyone around me was so actively social and I wanted to jump in and say yes to every opportunity to hang out with people and connect. And I think that I was craving that a little bit. So that really did make it harder for me to stick to this routine. And I know that I would have, if this was a year or two prior, I would have been locked into this routine, no issues, getting out of bed, doing yoga, meditating. Like that would have been my lifestyle anyway. So it's
And so
interesting.
on the opposite spectrum of that, I feel like my social life has been so full for so many years. And last year, especially, I went on, I think, 18 plus trips last year, which was just wild. Everybody and their mother got married last year in my friend group. And we had a billion big birthdays and just all of these trips that we had planned. And it was so overwhelming. I felt like my calendar never stopped. I hated it. I am a creature of habit. I like routine for the most part, and I like being in my own space. And so that was really difficult for me. So this year, when we decided to do this, I'm like, heck yeah, like I could say, sorry, got to go to bed at 8:30. I'm waking up at 5 a.m. Can't come. Darn it. Like this was the yes, to be able to say, I can't come. And I have to set that boundary for myself to be able to have me time. So I feel like I'm on the opposite spectrum from you.
But I think there's something interesting about the fact that we had such opposite experiences in tackling this, but our experience at the end of the day was fairly similar in that, we didn't feel like we had increased productivity. If anything, it just shifted to earlier hours. Or for me, it did shift to earlier hours in terms of self-care, but with work productivity, like Meagan said, there were days where I found myself having to work later because I didn't get to finish my to-do list. And I am more creative at night. So sometimes I would cut myself early and allow myself to take a longer break so that I could pick up again in the evening when I knew I would have higher productivity levels when it came to creating content or any of like the more creative stuff that we do. So.
Oh my gosh, this is also good. Okay. So here's what I'm boiling this down to in terms of takeaways. There were some benefits, but ultimately it was not what you expected. Seasonal, depends on the season, depends on the personality. And honestly, I'm also sort of thinking like, no judgment. If you're not the 5 a.m. wake up, like corporate and everything is designed, like get there at a certain time, do these things, but do what works for you as much as you can, because we've got so many boundaries and constraints that are just happening in society around us. Find what works for you.
Yeah. I got so much feedback when I posted about this on Instagram. There were so many people that were like, heck yeah, 5 a.m. Let's go, baby. And then so many people that were like, I tried this and it was the worst experience in my life. I am not a 5 a.m.er. So I really think it does depend on the person. And I also think if you're just looking for a more flexible schedule to try and add some more, if you end up every single day saying there is not enough time in the day to get things done, try waking up a little bit earlier, an hour earlier, and just really trying to micromanage your time and really get diligent about when are you doing what activities. And I like how Sam talked about maybe giving herself a little bit more of a break in the middle of the day so that she knew she could go back to work. At the end of the day, it gives you the flexibility to be able to kind of parse out your day how you want. And I mean, we obviously have very flexible work schedules. We can that is a big portion of this. Yeah. We're not typical 9-to-5ers, Right. So that is a huge aspect of this, obviously, because that's why we're doing this, to be able to have more flexibility in our day and be able to do the things that we want during the day. So I do love that aspect of it. And I think you have to do what works for you. And maybe you wake up at 5 a.m. one day, maybe you don't the next day, but just knowing that you have that time to be able to add in a little bit more me time or be able to end your day a little earlier if you have something like coming up is kind of nice to know you can do that. And I don't think it would have made me a more successful person. I don't think it's going to make me a billionaire by any means. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think I will try it this summer. I don't know if it'll be 5 a.m., but I think I'll stick to the 6 a.m. club. So
I love it. Sam, final words from you. Are you going to keep this up? Try it again?
I think that, like I said, it's really dependent on the lifestyle that you're experiencing in the moment. Like for me, when I was commuting in college, this would not have been possible for me. I had to schedule out like 2 hours to make sure that I was there a bit early in case the train was delayed or whatever it might be to get to my classes. And if you have an 8 a.m., you're out the door by 6. So like for me, in that period of my life, there would be no judgment that I could not do something like this, but now that I am in a flexible career and I work in social media, it's like I have the opportunity to experience social media trends through my job and not have the time where I'm scrolling constantly to like locate that on personal time, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. And I feel like now that the sun is out and I just recently like discovered like a total love for Pilates. I'm interested in that. I like waking up and going to a class. And so I think that, yeah, and the lifestyle that I'm in now, it works, but it might not always be this way. And I feel like I'm totally okay with just taking it as it comes and not being too strict on myself and not saying, you have to be up at 6 a.m. every day. It's just not necessary. Like I have such a good flow with my day and I'm able to just kind of take things as it comes. And yeah, I'm okay with whatever comes. If in the summer I want to wake up one day, then I'll do it. If I don't, I'm going to let myself sleep in and get the rest of my day done when I can.
Oh my gosh. Thank you both so much for sharing about this experiment with us. This was awesome.
Yeah, this was so fun. Thanks for chatting.
Thanks for having us.
Love you both.